Let me paint you a picture. I want you to imagine a couple. Both of them are educated. Both of them are hardworking. Both of them are doing what society told them to do. She works in project management, earning around $65,000 a year. He's in engineering, bringing in about $75,000. Together, that's $140,000. On paper, that puts them comfortably in the upper tier of American households. They're supposed to be thriving. They're supposed to be saving aggressively. They're supposed to be investing. They're supposed to feel relaxed about money. They're supposed to feel safe. But they don't. Instead, they feel constantly behind. They check their bank account before buying groceries. They hesitate before filling up their gas tank. They keep mental notes of which bills are coming next. They have maybe 6 weeks of savings, 2 months if nothing goes wrong. And when something does go wrong, like when their water heater broke last winter, they didn't dip into savings. They pulled out a credit card. Both of them work full-time, sometimes weekends, sometimes late nights. They're tired all the time. They eat dinner together maybe twice a week. Most nights, one of them is answering emails while the other scrolls on their phone, half asleep. And here's the part that doesn't make sense. They did everything right. They went to college. They avoided major trouble. They built careers. They got married. They merged their finances. They bought a home in a good area. They planned responsibly. They followed the blueprint. So why does it feel like they're barely staying afloat? Why does a household making over $100,000 feel one unexpected bill away from panic? If you've ever looked at your combined income and thought, we make too much money to feel this stressed, this video is going to explain a lot. My name is Shawn, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time trying to understand why modern couples are working harder than ever and feeling poorer than ever. If you're building a life with someone, both of you grinding, both of you sacrificing, and you still feel like you're stuck in place, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if this resonates with you. Because what I'm about to explain isn't about budgeting apps or skipping lattes. It's about a system that quietly rewired family finances over the last 50 years. And most people never realized it happened. Here's the belief we all grew up with. 2 incomes are better than 1. It sounds obvious. If one person making $50,000 can support a household, then 2 people making $50,000 should be living like royalty, right? That's just math. 1 + 1 = 2. Double the money, double the security, double the freedom. Except that's not what happened. What actually happened is one of the biggest financial illusions of the modern era. Families didn't get safer, they got tighter. They didn't gain flexibility, they lost it. Researchers started noticing something strange decades ago. Households with 2 full-time earners were not becoming more stable. They were becoming more fragile, more likely to miss payments, more likely to fall behind, more likely to declare bankruptcy, even though they earned more. Think about that. 2 adults working non-stop, 2 paychecks coming in every month, more education than any generation before, and still more likely to collapse financially. That's not a personal failure. That's a structural problem. And most people are living inside it without knowing. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind. Let's go back to the early 1970s. Back then, most middle-class families operated on one primary income. Usually, one parent worked full-time, the other managed the household. That wasn't perfect, it wasn't fair, it wasn't always by choice. But financially, it worked. One paycheck could cover a modest home, utilities, transportation, food, healthcare, basic savings. Families weren't rich, but they had margin. They had breathing room. They weren't maxed out. And most importantly, they had a backup plan. If the main earner lost their job, the other parent could step into the workforce. That second income wasn't being used, it was stored, like an emergency generator, only turned on when necessary. Now, fast forward to today. In most households with children, both adults work, not as a choice, as a requirement. 2 incomes are no longer optional, they're mandatory. And here's the twist. Once everyone had access to 2 paychecks, prices adjusted. Slowly, quietly, relentlessly. Housing costs climbed. Healthcare exploded.
Childcare became a second rent payment. Education became a lifelong debt. Everything got more expensive, but wages didn't keep up. So what filled the gap? The second income. Every extra dollar. Absorbed. By necessity. Today, the typical household earns more than families did 50 years ago adjusted for inflation, but they afford less. Smaller homes, more debt, less savings, more anxiety. And it's not because people became reckless, it's because the cost of normal life doubled. Let's look at what really happens to that second paycheck. Say one partner earns $80,000, the other $55,000. That sounds strong. That sounds successful. That sounds like you've made it. Now focus on that $55,000. First, taxes. That income gets taxed at higher brackets: federal, state, payroll. Before you even see it, maybe 30% is gone. Now you're at $38,000. Next, childcare. One kid, $10,000 to $15,000. Two kids, $25,000 or more. Now you're at $13,000. Then convenience spending. Gas, insurance, maintenance, parking, depreciation. Easily $6,000 to $8,000. Now you're at $5,000. Then convenience spending. Takeout, meal kits, house cleaning, delivery fees, quick fixes. Because nobody has energy. That's another $5,000. Now you're at zero. Someone just worked a full-time job for nothing. Sometimes less than nothing. And yet, families still make decisions based on the full combined income. They buy homes sized for 2 paychecks. They finance cars assuming both jobs continue. They commit to lifestyles that require perfect stability. And life is never perfectly stable. That's when the trap closes.
Here's the part most people never think about. When you build your life around 2 incomes, you're not just earning more. You're taking on more risk. Because now both paychecks are required. Not helpful, required. Your mortgage depends on them. Your insurance depends on them. Your childcare depends on them. Your debt payments depend on them. Every major obligation in your life is calibrated for 2 adults working full-time. Which means if either one disappears, the whole system shakes. Not slowly, immediately. If one partner gets laid off, the family doesn't lose extra money, they lose survival money. If someone gets sick, burned out, injured, or needs time off, there's no buffer. There's no soft landing. There's panic. This is why so many modern families feel like they're walking a tightrope. One slip and everything falls apart. Earlier generations weren't walking on a bridge. They were walking on a bridge. Wide, stable, forgiving. They had margin. Today, most families don't. They're running at full capacity every month. Every dollar already assigned. Every paycheck already spent. Nothing left for error. That's why emergencies hurt so much now. A broken transmission isn't inconvenient. It's catastrophic. A medical bill isn't annoying. It's terrifying. A temporary layoff isn't manageable. It's existential. Because there's no room to absorb the hit. And here's something else that quietly made everything worse. Competition. Once 2-income households became normal, the entire market adjusted. Think about housing. Decades ago, families bought homes based on 1 income. Now, everyone shops with 2. So when a house hits the market, buyers aren't bidding with $60,000, they're bidding with $120,000. What happens? Prices explode. Not because homes became better, but because buyers became richer on paper. Same houses, double bidding power. Same story with school districts. Good schools are tied to neighborhoods. Families want access, so they compete. They stretch, they overpay. They justify it by saying, we both work, we can handle it, until they can't. Parents aren't paying tuition, they're paying it through mortgages. And once you're locked into that mortgage, you're locked into both jobs. Forever. That's not freedom, that's financial handcuffs. And nobody talks about it because everyone else looks fine. Social media shows vacations, new kitchens, nice cars, smiling family photos. What it doesn't show: credit card balances, sleepless nights, arguments about money, silent anxiety. Everyone is pretending, and that pretense keeps the cycle going. Now, at this point, some people say, okay, but what choice do we have? We need both incomes. Quitting isn't realistic. You're describing our reality. And you're right. Most families can't just flip a switch. That's how traps work. They're easy to enter, hard to exit.
But there is a way out. Not overnight, not painlessly, but deliberately. It starts with a different philosophy. Instead of building your life on two incomes, you build it on one. Not because you plan to quit, but because you plan to be resilient. Think of it like this. Most people treat both incomes as guaranteed, permanent, untouchable. They assume they'll always be healthy, always employed, always able to grind. So they design their life accordingly. Big mortgage, multiple car payments, high fixed costs. The alternative is what I call the single income baseline. You structure your essential expenses so that one income can carry them. Housing, food, utilities, insurance, basic transportation. Covered. Everything else? Optional. Now your second income isn't survival, it's strategy. It becomes savings, investments, debt elimination, freedom. Let's make this real. Say your household earns $135,000, $80,000 from one partner, $55,000 from the other. Most families would shop for a house that needs at least $100,000 to maintain. Instead, you choose one that works on $60,000. It's smaller, it's farther out, it's less flashy, but it's safe. Instead of two financed cars, you own one, or both. Instead of upgrading every few years, you run them into the ground. Instead of maxing lifestyle, you max resilience. And yes, people will question it. They'll say, you could afford better. Why are you living this way? Why not upgrade? Because you're not building for appearances, you're building for options. Every dollar you don't lock into fixed costs becomes flexibility. Every dollar you invest buys you time, buys you peace, buys you choices. First, you build an emergency fund, 6 months, then 9, then 12, then retirement, then taxable investments, then real independence. And something interesting happens. After 5 years, you're calmer. After 10, you're powerful. Because now losing a job isn't a disaster, it's inconvenient. Taking time off isn't terrifying, it's manageable. Caring for family isn't impossible, it's doable. You're no longer trapped, you're positioned. And this isn't about deprivation, it's about timing. You delay some comfort now to buy permanent comfort later. Most people do the opposite. They buy comfort early and pay for it forever. Here's the truth most financial advice won't tell you. We didn't lose security because we're lazy. We lost it because we monetized every spare hour, every extra paycheck, every backup plan. We spent it all and called it progress. Our grandparents weren't wealthier. They were more flexible. They could adapt. We can't because we're stretched thin. But you don't have to stay that way. You can reverse it. Slowly, quietly, deliberately. Let me tell you what happens when you stay on the two-income treadmill long enough. At first, it feels normal. You're busy. Everyone's busy. You're tired. Everyone's tired. You assume this is just adulthood. You work, you pay bills, you repeat. Years go by. Promotions come. Raises happen. Bonuses show up. But nothing really changes. You're still checking balances, still postponing vacations, still nervous about surprises. You're earning more, but you're not feeling richer because every increase in income gets absorbed. New house, bigger mortgage, better neighborhood, nicer car, higher insurance, more activities. Every raise becomes a new obligation. And eventually, you reach a point where you can't scale back. Your life becomes too expensive to downshift. You're locked in. This is why so many people in their 40s and 50s feel trapped. They're at peak earning years and peak anxiety. They have good jobs and no exit. They can't take risks. They can't start businesses. They can't switch careers. They can't take breaks because everything collapses if they do. That's not success. That's dependence. Now let's look at the other path, the quieter one, the one nobody posts about, the family that chose smaller, the couple that ignored upgrades, the people who didn't chase every status symbol. At first, they looked behind. Their house was modest. Their cars were old. Their vacations were simple. They skipped things. They said no. They felt awkward sometimes. But while everyone else was stretching, they were stacking. Emergency fund, investments, paid off debt, retirement accounts. Slowly, patiently, unimpressively. Then something happened. Time started working for them. Their savings produced income. Their investments compounded. Their expenses stayed low. And one day, they noticed they weren't scared anymore. A layoff didn't feel like doom. It felt like a pause. A health issue didn't mean collapse. It meant adjustment. A career change wasn't reckless. It was possible. They had options. They had leverage. They had freedom. That's real wealth. Not the car, not the house, not the vacation photos. The ability to say, we're okay, no matter what happens.
And here's the psychological shift most people never experience. When money stops being fragile, life gets lighter. Arguments decrease, sleep improves, relationships strengthen. You stop making decisions out of fear. You stop staying in bad jobs. You stop tolerating toxic environments. You stop overworking because you don't have to. You're no longer selling your peace to pay your bills. You own your time again.
And this doesn't require perfection. You don't need extreme frugality. You don't need to live like a monk. You need intentionality. You need awareness. You need to stop letting your income dictate your identity and start letting your values dictate your spending. Ask yourself, could we survive on one income? Not comfortably, not luxuriously, but safely. If the answer is no, that's your signal. Not to panic, to plan. Start shrinking fixed costs. Refinance, downsize, pay off cars, kill subscriptions, simplify. Every small move matters. Every percentage point counts. You're not behind, you're awakening. The two-income trap isn't evil, it's invisible. Most people fall into it without noticing. They never get a warning. They never get a memo. They just wake up one day exhausted, anxious, and stuck. Now you know. You see it, which means you can avoid it or escape it. Remember this. Security isn't about earning more. It's about needing less. Freedom isn't about luxury. It's about flexibility. We weren't promised easy lives, but we were promised choices. And too many people traded those choices for stuff, for appearances, for approval. You don't have to. You can build differently. You can build quietly. You can build sustainably. And 10 years from now, you'll thank yourself. Because you'll have something rare. Not just money. Control. If this video helped you rethink how you see income, lifestyle, and security, hit the like button so more people can see it. Subscribe if you want more content about building real wealth in a system that doesn't make it easy. And remember, the goal isn't to look rich, it's to live free.